We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
There's no combination of words I could put on the back of a postcard.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pathways to Love. This is your host, Julie Orlove. I am delighted to be with you today. We're actually airing at a special time this week. This is Thursday, and it's 10 a.m., and we are normally on Sundays at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, but I just had to come in today because I have two very special guests, and I'm going to introduce them in just a minute, and they could be here today. So we are arranging everything for these two lovely ladies that are in studio. We are here every week, and I am dedicated to helping you create very strong and intimate relationships in every area of your life. And I have been doing this work for over 25 years as a psychotherapist, an executive coach, a speaker, and the author of the Pathway to Love books and programs. And everything that we do is here to support you in understanding how relationships develop over time, what's normal and natural to expect each and every step along the way, and what you can do to create more intimacy and more connection with the people you love, because that is what it is all about. And today's topic is just, the timing is just so beautiful based on the Supreme Court's decision yesterday. We are talking about creating loving and healthy same-sex relationships. So congratulations to all of those out there. Yes, who love someone of the same gender and want to express that love in a marriage and in any way that anyone else can express their love to someone that they want to make a commitment to in their life. So I'm very excited about that. And we're just going to jump in. So I want to introduce my two guests. We have with us in studio Kristen Russo and Danielle Owens-Reed. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thanks.
And they are founders of a website that's called Everyone is Gay, and they're here. Actually, they provide a lot of relationship advice and help, so we're really going to get into it today. And they've had this very interesting journey where they have come to really reach out to, I think, thousands and thousands of people who are figuring out and discovering who it is that they are attracted to, who they want to love, how they navigate those relationships. And I am delighted to have you ladies with us. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
So tell me just a little bit, how did this website get started, and how has it evolved into what it is today? Let's just kind of get a little foundation here.
Well, I created the website Lesbians Who Look Like Justin Bieber.
I love that. When I blow dry my hair, actually, I do the little Justin Bieber look.
Swoop.
Yeah, I do. And it really makes it shine. Yeah, so I love that.
But so I created that about 3.5 years ago or something like that. And I was just sitting in the park with Kristen the first time we ever hung out, and we were talking about it. And I was telling her about some of the comments I was getting. There were, positive comments, of course, but there were also negative things that people were saying about the website and about me and how I was stereotyping the community and making lesbians look bad. And Kristen was on her way to getting her master's in gender studies, which she now has.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you for that applause.
But so we were just both fired up about the idea of these people saying these things, and we wanted to respond. So we decided to start a website to be sassy.
I love that. All anyone needs is a good challenge, and really, I can't do that.
Really, 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, what happened was basically that we started it to do exactly that, to be sassy, to talk back. But what wound up happening was that there was this huge need within the LGBTQ community specifically, and among youth specifically, who really needed a space to talk about questions that they had. And so we saw thousands of questions within our first few months of operation, most of which were not all, humorous in nature. A lot of them were more serious. So we sort of looked at each other and said, what should we do? Should we try to answer these serious questions? And, we tried it out, and people really liked what we had to say. And then we just kept building from there. And we've been really listening to our readers for the entire journey. They asked for videos, so we started creating videos. About a year into our operation, they asked us to come to their schools, to visit their schools. So we now tour the country and beyond, visiting high schools and colleges. So, it's been an evolving process.
Well, this audience is going nuts.
I know. They love us. They love us so much.
I think it's so important because young people need a space where they feel safe, 2, where they feel like they have privacy, and where they can start to ask somebody who maybe has been through that journey, who understands what the questions they have, what their issues are, how do they figure out who they are, if what they're feeling is quote unquote normal, and what do they do? How do they act on those feelings? How do they act on their information? How do they create their identity of who they are as an emerging sexual adult in the world? And I don't think there's a lot of places out there. So I think you really have filled a huge need, and I think that's great.
Thank you.
Well, I'm curious, what do you think some of those, if you had to narrow it down to a few of the top questions that you get from people, what are some of those really? And before we do, hold on, let me just 1 second say that speaking of questions, we want to open this conversation up to everyone and anyone. So if you are listening live, feel free to call into the studio. That number is 323-247-7443. That's 323-247-7443. We're on latalklive.com, and you can also leave messages. I'll check for those on my Facebook page at the break, and that's facebook.com/Julie Orlove. So I just wanted to get that out there. So, cool. Okay, so what are some of the questions that you have?
One of the questions that we get the most is, I am in love with my best friend.
Oh, really? God, that sounds familiar.
I think that, if you're listening, there is a good chance that your best friend is in love with you. It's really a very common occurrence.
Yeah. So is it okay, Tanya, if I bring you into this? One of the ways I found you is through my daughter. And she's in studio. She's off camera because we just don't have room for space for the camera. But she, I'm sure, gave you. Did you not give that exact same question? You have to get up to the mic, honey.
Yes.
Okay, pull the mic real close. And because, was that something that you went through? And is that
absolutely? Yeah. That was honestly one of the first signals that hey, I might be feeling something for the same gender, and. Is that better?
Yeah.
We good? And obviously, as would only be expected, she was straight, and it didn't work out. We're not friends anymore. But yeah. What do you want me to say?
No, I think that's probably a very common occurrence. And then what do I do with these feelings, and what does it mean, or what does it not mean?
Yeah, was it a close friend of yours?
She was a close friend of mine, yeah.
And so you're not friends anymore because of that?
I just felt like it was too difficult for me.
Yeah.
To kind of be in that in-between space,
Are you glad that you talked to her about it?
I I kind of cut the friendship before I talked about it, and then we kind of probably not the best idea. But then we kind of reconvened. I'm just want to talk, put it out there. And she was like, I think it's better that we're not friends. And at least I got some closure, Yeah. And I feel a lot better now that, I have that gone, I guess.
We never get to talk to people after we've given advice. So when I found out that you were here and we had sort of given you advice, I was like, so what did you do? How did it go?
Yeah,
I just want to know everything.
We do encourage. We always encourage people to talk to their friend, to communicate that with their friend, because everybody's always so worried that they'll say I have feelings for you, and they're not just friendship feelings, and then the friendship will be changed forever. But the fact of the matter is, the friendship has been changed forever before you say anything.
Yeah,
anyway.
Which you realize.
Right.
It was interesting because as her mother, it's she wasn't going to talk to me about this, at least not for a while. It was this whole little game, I think, that we were playing. Like, I knew she was struggling. I don't know if you know this, but I knew you were in love with her, because it was just.
I had a feeling. You
Yeah, yeah. and we had these conversations as when she felt comfortable coming to me. That's why I'm so glad that she had both of you, because she wasn't ready to have that conversation with me. And not because she was concerned that I would be judgmental, because I think she knows me that wouldn't be the issue at all, but that she wasn't ready to talk to a mom, which is very different. You know, whether you're straight, gay, it really doesn't matter. Your mom is not the one you want to go to. But that whole issue of, okay, you know, is this who you are? First of all, are you sure that this is who you are? Because at 14, 15, sometimes you're not sure. You know what I mean? You can have feelings for all kinds of people growing up. And then what do you do about that? And when do you come out? And who do you come out to first? And it's complicated, which I think if you're heterosexual, you don't have that added complication to it. You don't have to decide when do I tell somebody I have a crush on some guy, you know?
Yeah, and you don't have as much of the situation where your peers, I think a huge struggle for younger people as they begin to understand themselves is that not all of them, not all of us were in situations where we had people around us who we felt we could just talk openly about this with. And it wasn't not even necessarily from the standpoint of thinking that they might not accept us. But like for me personally, it was more so that I always felt like when I talked about if I had a crush on a girl, that I was like drawing attention to the fact that I was gay, that like it couldn't just be like a regular conversation, which really complicates things.
Right.
And being attracted to a girl doesn't necessarily mean that you identify as gay. And if you just want to talk to your friends about your attraction to someone that you all know in common, you can't just talk about that. You have to then talk about the fact that like you think you're gay and now you're coming out, and like there are just so many more.
And that's a huge thing for our readers too, I think, is the identity markers, the identity categories that they feel they have to choose really overcomplicates things, because they might be feeling like, oh, I'm attracted to this other girl, but like I'm not identifying as a lesbian necessarily, but I feel like I should have to, like I have to pick one thing to be, and that's not always the case. And that's a huge message that we try to send over and over again, is that like you can just be you don't have to define yourself by a word. If you don't want to, you can.
Well, you can, exactly. And I think, again, that's that whole thing of growing up. People, I think boys and girls can have crushes or find themselves attracted to all kinds of people, and to decide that cements you into something, I just feel like sexual orientation, sexual attraction, I wrote in my introduction to the blog that's going out today, it's very complex. It isn't just black and white.
For sure.
And people are still, especially teenagers, I mean, there's so much to discover about who you are and who you are in intimate romantic relationships. They don't have a lot of experience to draw on. And though the other thing I did say is that while I think attraction can be complex, love is not. And that's that universal piece that it's just universal. I mean, the feeling of being in love is the feeling of being loved. I don't care if it's man, woman, your newborn baby, your dog that you just picked up from the pound. I mean, when you fall in love, it's just a universal falling in love. And I think we need to start to appreciate that's a wonderful feeling, and it's expressed in many, many different ways. Even that in love feeling, absolutely. That isn't even just contained to a sexual romantic relationship. I'm personally in love with my dog, and my dog knows it. So does my boyfriend. Well, it's another story. I'm really way off topic. Okay, that's on our pet show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's really important. And I think for you, Tanya, as you've been kind of exploring and figuring out who you are, where would you say that you're at in this process? And
I mean, I definitely, when I first started questioning or whatever, I was definitely like, am I gay? Am I bi? Or am I straight? And I was constantly flipping between the three, and now I'm just kind of like, I like who I like, and I don't really care, and I feel comfortable with who I like. and I feel like it's okay to like who I like, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, that's an incredible place to be, is when you realize that you can. Because I think, there's even this like remarkable thing that happens in reverse that happened to me, at least. I came out as bisexual, and then I came out as a lesbian, which was just like an ease of use for me. Like it just made it easier for everyone to understand who I was. But I was really afraid in my like early and mid 20s that like, what if I met a man who I fell in love with, that like I was terrified that I would undo the identity that I had created for myself. So it was like sort of a reverse fear, but it was still there because I had not come to that realization that you already have, that like I could just like who I like and operate in my world like that,
And I think that's really an interesting point, that people want to identify with a group. Well, one, because we like to belong. So it gives us a place to belong. And also then we get the support of that group. And I don't know what it's like in the gay community. I don't know. I'm sure it varies. I think some people are pretty comfortable with people having all kinds of a wide range of attraction. And then I would imagine that there's also people within that community that wants you to be loyal to the group, and that there might be ramifications if you're not loyal to the group. Is that been your experience?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I hit that one.
Yeah, I think that, we see a good amount of individuals within the LGBTQ community who, are asking for acceptance from the world at large, but at the same time are pushing people out of their community for not aligning with the expectations that they have, and that's a huge issue that we have, because we feel like, here we are saying, hey, we're human beings, we deserve equal rights, stop telling us who we are based on these factors. So if we're in that community and we're saying this is who you are because of those factors, then you're sort of undoing what you're asking for in the first place.
Yeah. And I know that part of the message that you both are putting out in the world is that, this whole thing about labeling, and can we get away from the labels, and do we have to identify each other? And it's a really interesting conversation, because, we do that. Do we label someone who's Black an African American? Do we label somebody who's gay? When do we have to label somebody, and when does that start to fall away in our culture? And I think it's a big challenge.
Yeah, it is. Our presentation that we do when we go to high schools and colleges, at the end we talk about identity, and we talk exactly about that, how labels are great for some things, but they end up making this divide even larger in a lot of cases. And so I think it's hard to figure out when to label, when not to label, when it's a positive thing, when it's a negative thing, and then labeling within the labels, and it's all so complicated.
It is, and I think, that the way that I hold on to labels myself is because you can't just do away with them. I mean, that's not fair, and there has been a history of, discrimination and marginalization within all of these different subsets of people, and so you can't just say no labels anymore. You guys, let's just forget it all, whatever. But I think that labels are important to unify a group around a history, to say that, like, as a group, we've been through these things, and that brings us together, and we can talk about those things and how to change them. But then when those labels become more than that, when they become then like markers of who we are as a person, that's when it's really troubling. I think that labels should be used as a marker of history rather than like of what's on your insides.
Richard likes that one. He's like all over that, right on. It's interesting as a therapist, our brains are designed to categorize. So our brains create shortcuts, and those shortcuts then turn out to look like stereotypes. So I find it's an interesting conversation, really from a neurological, psychological perspective, because on the one hand, if I want to describe somebody, I'll say, oh, that skinny blonde girl. And someone will say, oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about, because it's that skinny blonde girl,
Totally.
Or, we can say, for me, I talk with my hands, I'm Jewish, maybe there's something about being a Jewish girl that these things have to move. I don't know. I think that actually works with a lot of cultures. But so there's the labels on the one hand provide us an opportunity to have a descriptor so that we can at least understand who we're talking about. It also, I think, really speaks to what you said about the cultural background or a historical background, whichever type of background it is that this group has an experience of, and people who belong to that group have an experience with, that maybe people outside of that group don't have the exact same similar experience. But when it starts to really, I think, chip away at people being blocked from understanding and getting to know who the unique human being is, that's where it gets into trouble. And I think it's what we attach to those labels. You know, I mean, if we say somebody is married is a label, a parent is a label. That's a community. Mm-hmm. There really isn't a lot of emotional intensity or volatility to those words. It's taking the emotionality, whatever all that hot button that's attached to the labels that are, I think people are just beginning to be open to and more comfortable and more accepting of. And I think that's the challenge, you know? So tell me a little bit about what kinds of advice, like, okay, so here's my take on things. In the Pathway to Love, what that is about is I've laid out 4 developmental phases of a relationship. And my premise is, so to speak, I come from the position that every relationship, actually it doesn't matter if it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, a work relationship, every relationship goes through these very 4 predictable phases of development. So I don't see any differentiation between whatever type of relationship it is. So I'm wondering, what are some of the issues that come up in your questions about relationships? And let's just compare notes. Like, what did you say? What would I say? Let me just see if my theory is true. I'll just check you out. Don't be intimidated by 25 years of mental health background. I don't want you to be.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. My first thought was trying to think of, like, not issues, but things that we talk about on our site that maybe you wouldn't experience as much. And all I could think of was, like, U-hauling.
Yeah. What's U-hauling? Okay, now my naivety is coming out. I'm going to look really dumb very quick.
Yeah, there's a you know, it's one of the stereotypes of the lesbian community in particular is the speed at which we move in together, which is called U-hauling.
I'm assuming that's quick?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Very
quickly.
Well, I tend to be pretty quick, so it doesn't cross
I feel like it's not. Yeah, I feel like it's not really a gay thing at all.
I don't think it is.
But you have a cute term that goes
we
with
do
that.
have a cute. You don't get to use the cute term.
That's not my term. God, U-hauling. I'm going to find one. For I want one.
But yeah, I mean, I think that speaks to, like, one of the relationship issues though, that we see a lot of, which is or the like how to move into a relationship without doing it too quickly, too intensely. You know, it's like when we get messages from people all the time that are like, I went on a couple of dates with this person, I have so many feelings, what do I do? You know, because I think it's universal that, like, if you go on a few dates with someone and you like them, but then they're, like, texting you all the time, they're calling you all the time, even though you liked them before that, you're like, I don't know, this is too much. And so it's this, like,
or you're on the other end of it and you're like, am I texting too much? Am I texting too much? Am I calling too much?
We always say, like, you know, when you want to text them, like, pick up your phone and text your friend and then put your phone back down, like, give it a little bit of time. But it's hard, and that's hard. I think that's universal.
That's called phase 1.
Oh, okay.
I have a name for that.
See,
phase.
You have a cute term too.
Yeah, and it's called the object fantasy phase.
Oh.
Yeah. So in my model, that's that phase where your hormones are going crazy, you're all excited, and you have decided clearly within that U-Haul phase that you know who this person is. It's that thing where you call somebody, your friend, and you say, oh my God, I met the most perfect human being in the world. This is the answer to my dreams, and I'm so excited. And then you ask, well, how long have you been dating? How long have you known this person? They say, well, 10 days.
But I know.
But I'm so sure. Yeah, that's that phase 1. Yeah, it's where the fantasies start to take control, and reality has not truly set in. So it's a fun phase, because everybody's excited and or anxious because you tend to be
Right.
both. But we really don't know much at that phase, even though we think we do.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the 10 days stretches out much longer now that we have the internet and people start relationships on Tumblr or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So the 10 days last for like 6 months because you don't even really hang out in
Right,
real
so
life.
you're like,
never.
I've been talking with them for 6 months, but like it's been in this, it's not like a face-to-face kind of conversation.
Yeah, so it's a totally different.
Yeah, and that whole thing is the falling in love via technology. That's a tough one because really, then you're really projecting.
Yeah, but it's like, it's complicated too. I mean, I think that like, I think our generation even is a little bit removed from that, but that like for younger people, that's a huge way of communicating. And,
Yeah.
and it's not just, an email. It's not like You've Got Mail where like they were
I
like, where they were like literally sending emails to each other.
Right.
You
Those
have,
days are gone.
Those days
They're
are gone.
gone?
Yeah.
Okay, they're gone.
Yeah, and you have video chat, and you have these like really really incredible ways of talking and of seeing another person's life and experience that I think are more advanced than come to our minds when
Right.
we think of internet communication. But I still do think that it falls within the phase one.
Well, yeah, I think it does, and I think that it can do two things though. When you have the wall of technology, sometimes it can allow you to be more vulnerable and more authentic because you feel like you've got the safety of the screen that's in front of you. And then on the other hand, of course, we all know that it can create the opportunity to be very deceptive. It can, there's just all, so it's kind of a mixed bag. You've got both those things.
Well, even
going
that
on.
vulnerability can be
Yeah.
a little deceptive, I think, because, you
Yeah.
know, who are you in real life and will you really talk about those things?
Yeah.
Hang on one sec. I think we have a caller. Hi, welcome to Pathways to Love. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, Emma, and I'm from Madison.
Can you repeat that one more time? You broke up a little bit.
Sorry, I'm Emma, and I'm from Wisconsin.
Okay,
Ooh.
welcome. So do you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I have a question. So I'm was
Take it off speakerphone and see if that helps because you're still breaking up.
sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll get it together eventually. We're patient over here. Okay, try it again and see how that works.
All right. So I'm lesbian and asexual. Who is, and it was just really hard for her because she was so sexually driven, and I'm not. I was just wondering if I should rule out dating people who aren't asexual forever.
I think we got most of that.
Did you?
question.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Then fill me in.
I feel like I think, and I hope this is correct. The question was that she identifies as lesbian and asexual, and is wondering if she's only ever going to be able to have relationships with other asexual people. Which, I mean, that's a complicated question because Danielle and myself don't have experience as being asexual and trying to date other people. But I know that we've spoken to many people who've had relationships with others who do not identify as asexual. That there's definitely room to have a relationship with someone who isn't asexual. That doesn't foreclose that, right?
Yeah, and I think that like anything in a relationship, it depends person to person to person. I mean, you will meet people that when you tell them that you're asexual, they won't want to be in a relationship with you. And that's okay because you don't want to be in a relationship with them at that point. So I think that you just have to take it person to person basis.
Yeah, and because all of us have a different relationship to sex in general, I mean, for some people it's really important and they know right off the bat that like that's a really integral part of their relationship. But there are people who don't identify as asexual where sex is like something that is fine and enjoyable, but at the same time it's not integral, it's not crucial, that there's emotional connections and physical connections that are not sexual that are more important to them than sex itself. So I do think that there's room to navigate. But I also think, and we talk about this a lot of times, the way that we like present who we are, I think has a lot to do with how people receive who we are. And you know, we know to a certain extent how difficult it is to present that without having that hesitation of like, you might not accept me for this. But you know, if you say to somebody like, you know, I really like you, but I'm asexual, and so like I know that probably it's like
then they feel weird automatically.
They're gonna right. You're sort of
in a weird way.
I think that's a really important point. I think it's important, one, to get comfortable with where you're at today and understand what is, you know, what's playing a part in where you're at today. And if you are really comfortable with that and that feels very good and very centered, then how that's communicated and the people that you'll naturally be, you know, that you'll gravitate towards will probably be a good match. If there's any kind of anxieties, if there's any kind of unresolved issues, if there's fear around the whole issue of sexuality and all that, if there's just, you know, I'm still young, I'm still figuring out, I don't want that pressure. I don't want that responsibility in my life right now. Then you just want to give yourself the space to really honor that and take care of yourself and sort it out. But if there are anxieties associated with this, you know, if there's some pain, that's when you really want to, you know, take the time, find people to talk to about it so that you can figure out what's going on. Because the goal is to be at peace. All right, I'm hearing music. I'm going to take that as we need to take a break. Thank you for your call. We appreciate that, and we wish you all the best. Okay, you are watching Pathways to Love. I'm Julie Orlove. I'm here with Kristen Russo and Danielle Owens-Reed. We're going to take a short break. Not bake. Well, we might bake some cookies. Who knows? Okay, and we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Because I could draw. My uncle was, and I kept my room straight. I told my mom, tears rushing down my face. She's like, Ben, you've loved girls since before pre-K. Tripping. Yeah, I guess she had a point, didn't she? Bunch of stereotypes all in my head. I remember doing the math, like, yeah, I'm good at Little League. A preconceived idea of what it all meant. But those that like the same sex have the characteristics. The right-wing conservatives think it's a decision. And you can be cured with some treatment in religion. Man-made rewiring of a predisposition, playing God. Oh nah, here we go. America the brave still fears what we don't know. And God loves all his children. It's somehow forgotten, but we paraphrase a book written 3,500 years ago. I don't know.
And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, she keeps me warm.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Have you read the YouTube comments lately? Man, that's gay. Gets dropped on the daily. We become so numb to what we're saying.
Hi, this is Angela DeJoseph. Join me Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific, The Angela DeJoseph Show. We're going to talk about health, wealth. We're going to share news, interviews, and entertainment. So don't forget to tune in to The Angela DeJoseph Show, Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific Time. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, Radio Flag, TiVo Radio, and now live on Facebook. Watch and listen directly on latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hey everybody, it's Miss R&B, and I'm inviting you to come and hang with me every Thursday night at 9 p.m. PST for Perspectives Corner with Rona Roe Bennett on America Talk Live. Hear and see interviews and live performances from some of our favorite celebrities and personalities in entertainment, sports, business, and the wellness industries. We're getting lifted and we're going deep, talking about life and empowering the champion in us all. See you there.
Hi, this is Dawn Christie inviting you to join me every Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, for my all-new show, The Dawn Christie Show. Join me as I discuss love, spiritual readings, your purpose, why am I born, what am I here to do. So don't forget to tune in The Dawn Christie Show at 1 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV, reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Romy Klinger.
This is Rose Garcia.
And we are inviting you to join us for the Romy and Rose Show every Friday at 4 p.m. Tune in for the Romy and Rose Show. We're going to be talking about pop culture, dating, business 101, what's ratchet, what's not ratchet, and music and so much more. So don't forget, tune in to the Romy and Rose Show. About to get real.
Exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality show handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
We're real talk.
Love grows in me like a tumor, parasite bent on devouring its host. I'm developing my sense of humor till I can laugh at my heart.
Okay, I just love that song. Gosh, Kristen, do you happen to know who is the artist?
You know, I've heard of her. I think her
Have
name's
you?
like, I think her name's Jenny.
Yeah.
She's very pretty. Yeah.
Is she? Yeah. If you haven't heard this song, we don't have time to play the whole thing through. Maybe we'll also go out with that song. Yeah, we'll try and just play it out when the show ends. If you're in a crazy relationship, this is your song, and it has kept me in and out of trouble many a time. So I just love that song.
For the record, that song was created way before I was in Jenny's life. Has nothing to do with
Right,
me.
I am sure of that. Mhm. No.
She knew what she was thinking.
Right. I trust me, it's good. Everyone has to go through their crazy relationships before they hit like gold. That's what I tell me.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, that's what I
Ain't
tell.
that the truth?
Yes, that's right. And speaking of crazy relationships, so here's my question, because it doesn't matter what combination you are, everyone can have crazy relationships. But I'm thinking, most people, whether you're straight, gay, whatever, you balance out the energies. So if you're a certain energy, you're going to probably draw into, like if like my co-host is not here today. Like he's a man, but he has a lot of feminine energy. So he's very attracted to women that has a little bit more masculine energy, Mm-hmm. So I think this is universal in the thing. But my question is, when you have two women, even if you have one woman that may be a little bit more emotionally centered and another woman who might be a little less so, just because you're balancing out those energies, you still have two women. You still have two women that and we're just face it.
I see what's going on.
We're just more emotionally based. We're just more emotional, because I think if I was with because I'm so emotionally based, and the guy I'm with, thank God, he's just like a little, like he's this. Well, he's more emotionally based than he lets in on, but So do you think that there's a difference, or not? This is my question.
I do and I don't. Like, I understand what you're saying for sure, and I have seen it. But I'm also, like, just personally so logical. I'm so logical. So even if I am very, very emotionally invested in, like, a person or a situation, I really have the ability to step back and be like, okay, well, it's not working out. It's not working out.
So you're going to be the easygoing one, and you're probably
That would
attracted
be
to
it.
very emotionally,
That
labile women.
sounds about right.
Okay.
Sounds pretty accurate.
Yeah. Okay, it is universal.
Yeah. I do. I think the same. I think that there's this huge pressure on men to present in a way that doesn't show the emotional underpinnings of things. So I don't really think that it's like a men are different than women thing. I think that we're sort of told to behave in particular ways so that, you know, it may seem like more women are emotional than men, but like in reality, it's just that, you know, you haven't peeled off those layers. Like you were just saying, you know, about the person that you're with, like, well, he isn't, well, kind of he is, but he just doesn't, you know, like it is in there. It's just
like the social cues that we receive from once we're born until.
But I do think that pairing of like, you know, a person who's more emotional with a person who's a little less emotional on the outside is a universal thing. Totally.
Yeah, I do. I think energies need to balance each other out. And so I do think that's universal.
I agree. And I think that's important in any relationship. Like I know with Kristen and I, it's super important that our energies are balanced, and it has a lot to do with emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, do not get a business partner where both of you are emotional, or you will not have a business.
Right. No, I think that's true. I think in any relationship, you do want to complement each other's strengths, because that's what creates a really powerful team, whether it's a romantic relationship, a business relationship, family relationships. It just doesn't matter. You know, there isn't, I always say, you know, people are attracted to their opposite for a reason. They love it at first. Then you go through this phase where you don't love it, because now you're hit up against the challenges of being with someone different, i.e. phase 2, which is the hard phase. But it's really being able to, I think, celebrate the differences, appreciate what each person brings to the table. And it was really interesting. I'm actually just going to bring up a little conversation I had with my guy a couple nights ago, because I thought it was fascinating. And we were talking about, because we live together, and so we're kind of playing with this, okay, you know, how committed are we? You know, do we want to get married one day? What are all the things that are coming up for him and for me over this issue? And it's very interesting. He said to me, because I was trying to figure out what is going on with him about decision making, and he's not, you know, I've been married before, so it's like he's been married before. But so he came up finally, he said with a statement, he says, "You are just so much more powerful than me." It's very interesting. And that and you want to do things that I don't want to do. And I think he feels like if he committed to saying I'm committed to you or I married you, that he would lose his sense of self or his ability to live his life by the choices and things that are important to him. I was shocked, and I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "I don't see you as me being more powerful than you." I said, "I have strengths," because he says you're articulate, you know about relationships. I mean, really, he isn't in a talk argument. Yeah, he is. It is going to be tough for him, but
he's right.
He's not right, because I said, "You are absolutely my equal in power," because he brings things to the table that I am not that smart in, and I bring other things, and that's why we have each other. And it was interesting, because I said to him, I said, you know, if you're not feeling fully in your own power in this relationship, that's not because of me. I said, that's because of you. And you got to figure that out, because I'm totally vulnerable with you. You have the power to hurt me. You have the power, you know, you got a lot of power here. You know, so it was a very interesting conversation that took place. And it was very enlightening for me to get what maybe his concerns and fears were about. So, yeah. So anyways, I just thought I'd share.
Yeah. Well, I think that's interesting, because I think that like in that situation, because I've been in similar situations in relationships in the past where I'm really vocal. You know, I make decisions. I like take control of things a good amount. And I feel like that has put me in a similar position where people who are either dating me or working with me feel like, you know, I'm taking the power. But I've always felt like in that situation, some of the best results that I've had has been because I've never felt like that either. I've always felt like I couldn't do like all of these things without you. You know what I mean? I feel like Danielle and I have that dynamic. Like we bring such different things to the table, but that like sometimes the other person needs to know the things that they're bringing to the table, and not just like in that conversation, but then like in a day-to-day sort of level, to be reminded of the things that like you each bring to each other, because it's not always easy as the person within the relationship to realize that you doing XYZ is actually so helpful and integral to the relationship itself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what are some other questions? So when you get the questions of, okay, I feel like I'm in love with my best friend, or, you know, what are some of the other types of questions? Because I get questions, and they tend to run in certain categories. They're not all that different. What are some of the other common things that you deal with?
I think like conflicting interests is a question that we get a lot, especially because of the age at which a lot of the people are asking it. There's a lot of like going away to college, having, this person wants to do this and this person wants to do this other thing. Like, how do I navigate this relationship when we are going in different directions at this point in our life? So that's a common question.
Which I feel like we could just put on the little top of that is long distance.
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
saying like, will long distance work in relation to I have to go to college or I got offered a job or whatever. So.
I think that's a real challenge for young people because there are so many transitions going on from high school to college, post-college, whether it's graduate school or going into a job or just going out of high school into, taking some time to. And it's huge. It's that, what do we do? And is there enough here to hold us together? Or is it really the right thing for us to stay together? Do we need that time to explore other things and other people and have the freedom to do that? Because those years, they're really important years in terms of feeling that you get to know who you are.
They're important. And I also feel like for me at least, the younger I was, the harder it was for me to think about my future. So it's harder for me to say, well, if we're in a long distance relationship, I know that eventually, like, I'll want to live here. I know that eventually, or I know that I'll never want to live there, and make a decision based on that. Because when I was like 21 or 22, I had no idea what I was doing or where I was going or what I wanted. So
yeah, could you imagine? This is very
I never.
Like, oh my gosh.
And I also specifically remember saying when I was like 22, I will never live in New York. I will never live there. And I lived there for 2 years. So like
Now, did you have a relationship in high school or college that you had to go through this decision-making process?
I've been in a few long-distance relationships. I did, when I first moved to Chicago in 2007, I was dating someone who lived in our college town. And eventually, after a year, she also moved and joined me in Chicago. I haven't been on the other end of making the decision. I've had people move where I've moved.
They've moved for you. Yeah. Talk about power.
Sorry. I don't know how to make myself sound cool again.
That could be a lot of responsibility too.
Yeah, it is.
But you were together for the entire year apart and continued the relationship then after she got to your city. So
we started dating in like May of 2007, and I moved in December of 2007, and she joined me in May of 2008, and then we broke up in July.
Cool. So
that wasn't
the long distance was the good part.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big change on a relationship. Long distance it's hard in the respect that you miss the person desperately, and you wish that they were there. It's easy from the perspective that you don't have the day-to-day challenges. You don't have so many negotiations. And really, when you get together, then there isn't real life around you. You kind of stay in this nice little bubble and just have a great time. And, it's like, meeting each other all over again. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that change within a relationship, regardless of if it's moving apart or moving together or just you growing as an individual, are the places where you either grow and become stronger or the places where you realize, this isn't going to work. We can't make it through this shift together.
Yeah. And I think to speak back to the U-hauling, now that I have the lingo down, I think it's really important for everyone out there to remember that that phase one is typically not the time to make any life-altering decisions. It's not the time to pick up and leave your job, leave your family for somebody. It's the time to really enjoy it, but settle in and get to know someone, because it's really when you get past that and you know when you've landed in phase two, which is I call the self-discovery phase, because that's when you have that feeling like, you used to make me feel good all the time, and what's going on here, you know? And it's when really everybody starts to be able to get comfortable into being who they get fully expressed in who they are. And that inevitably is going to have some great things about it, and it's going to have a lot of disappointments. And it's working through those disappointments that I think is what builds a strong foundation. Then if you want to like order your U-Haul and pack up and go, I mean, you have my blessing because that's the time to do it, because there's still work to be done. It kind of never stops, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I also think too, with the moving in together thing, you know, I had a relationship where we were together for a year and we moved in together, and it was a little soon. And I was also pretty young. And I remember feeling, even when that relationship was still in a really positive place after we had moved in together, that I felt kind of let down, that there wasn't anything else to do, you know, that like we already had moved in together. We lost the ability to like get ready for a date in our respective homes and then like meet each other at the restaurant and be like, oh my God, you look so good. Because instead we were like brushing our teeth in the bathroom together. Right. But, like a lot of that, you know, and I mean, obviously living with somebody that you love is wonderful, but I do think that especially as a younger person, I had wished in that relationship that I had waited, because I was like, man, if we are together forever, it was like a long time to just be brushing our teeth together.
Yeah. And it also, if you decide the relationship isn't for you, it is a lot easier to exit a relationship without, you know, the added drama, really, of having to separate households.
Oh yeah, especially when you are the same sex and you wear all the same clothes.
Right.
So even more complicated.
And now that, of course, you can all get married, so now you got, okay, I'm so excited because now you get all the pains that go along with that. Because
she's so excited we have to deal with divorce.
Like, haha, you guys get to be miserable now.
I keep thinking like, oh yeah, you really want, no, this is good, but now you got the other side of this whole thing too, because now it's interesting because now I'm 52, so I've been around the block, okay? So I've lived a life. And it's interesting to me that living with someone, I thought, oh, I don't know if I need to get legally married again. I'm like, I've been there, done that. I've almost raised my children. You're almost raised. Everything's almost done. And but it's funny because now living with him, and this is what's going to be so nice about your community, because you're going to feel the difference too. There's a difference between being married to somebody, and I'm sure you've had, you know, it doesn't matter, you've had commitment ceremony, you've had your version of it, but there's also something about it being legal, and that there's a process you have to go through, like a divorce to end it, which is a whole another issue.
Oh yeah.
So it adds something to it. And I used to think marriage didn't really, you know, live together, married at this point. I'm like, but you know what? It does make a difference. And I almost think, you know, I would not have moved in so quickly, number one. Number two, I might have waited to make sure that there was a commitment on both ends, that we both really were sure about this. So I love the fact that now, because it's going to add, not that there's been any richness lacking from gay and lesbian relationships, but you get another texture. There's just another texture that I think that you have not been able to experience just because of that funny little legal thing, which I can't tell you makes a difference.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm getting married in a couple of months, and obviously the rulings would have.
Read the book, okay, before. Okay, you have 2 months. It will take you 2 hours. It's gonna help.
Deal.
Okay.
But you know, I feel like obviously anyone who identifies anywhere within the community was impacted by the rulings that happened yesterday on a really serious level. But to know, you know, just to think yesterday that like I could go to other states, I could do these things and I could feel protected by the law was just an incredibly emotional experience, and also just an incredible experience overall. Like to feel that, to know that like finally I felt safer. I felt like the country was a safer place for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and it's about time.
Oh my gosh, yes.
For real.
Yes, it is.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. No, I cannot even imagine loving someone and wanting to spend my life and commit my life to them and not being able to have the same rights as anybody. I can't even imagine it.
I mean,
crazy.
I have my uncle and my aunt, because they're an interracial couple and we're from South Carolina, they were illegally together for about 11 years before they could finally get married in like the 80s. It was like 89 or something ridiculous when they could finally get married.
I mean, people forget that. There's been discrimination going on in marriage forever.
Oh my gosh. And the intricacies of like how it affects, you don't, that's the thing that I never realized, that two of my very close friends are both girls, and they're married and they have now 2 children, and watching the process of like when they had the first child, the non-biological mom didn't have legal rights to her own child until he was like almost 2 years old, because he had to be adopted. It's just like, you don't realize the intricacies of it all until you really see it playing out.
Yeah. No, it opens up so much, and that's good. And you also have a little bit more challenge. You have different challenges, actually. You get rid of some challenges, and then you have some new ones. So, but these are much better challenges than the others. Yeah. That's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. Is anything else that you can think of that's come up for you? We have just a few more minutes. Anything that's been interesting in your journey?
Well, real quick, I wanted to know what the other two. You said there
phases.
were 4 phases, and I just need to know. So.
Okay.
We can't only know 2 phases.
Right. Okay. Right? I'll give you the other 2 phases, and then of course the books you can read them in depth. So, and then they have a lot of storytelling. So phase 2 is, I'll just reiterate that's that stage where actually the fantasies start to turn into realities, and you really start to relate to each other as real human beings. And it's that struggle stage, because it's a matter of, I'm disappointed. What is it about you that triggers me? What is about me that triggers you? And it's a lot of work in terms of just really self-responsibility, self-awareness, and getting comfortable being vulnerable with your partner and sharing those things. So you really understand what those differences are and how they impact one another. In phase 3 is the personal transformation phase. That's where the deep, deep intimacy lives. That's where that deep commitment and intimacy lives. And there's this one thing that takes place that acts as a bridge from phase 2 to phase 3. And by the way, most people don't make it to phase 3. Most relationships, quite honestly, are stuck in phase 1 and phase 2. So that's how rare phase 3 is. Or people can stay in it for a little bit, and then they go back into phase 2. But the word there really is acceptance. Okay, so most people, even though they think they accept their mate or their spouse or their loved one, deep down there's this hope that, she's not going to be so withholding of her affection. I know I can get her more comfortable with cuddling. Or, he gives me such a hard time about my weight, and I'm sure that will change over. So there's still this hope. But when you truly accept someone, and I mean truly accept someone for who they are, that's what kicks you into phase 3. But I always tell people it's important to remember that just because you accept someone for who they are doesn't mean that that's a yes. So I can accept that my spouse is an alcoholic, for example, but accepting it may mean it's not going to work for me, though. It's not how I want to live my life. So it can go either way. But acceptance is huge. And why people struggle with that is because we do want to be in hope. See, if we accept something for what it is, then we have to make a choice. And people don't like to make hard choices. So I really think from a human nature advantage point, that's what keeps people in that phase 2. Totally. And then phase 4 is what I call the relational transformation phase, and that's where relationships just take on this whole other energy level, because it's not only do they accept each other for who they are, but they've created a vision for that relationship. So the relationship takes on this life form in and of itself. They relate to the relationship as a living, breathing entity with needs and with goals all in and of itself. And then what you do is you align all your actions and all your choices with the needs of the relationship first, which is hard to do, again, because we're kind of egocentric in nature and we're designed to kind of, survive and keep our own needs alive and well. But when you do that, your relationship takes on a whole different life. So there you go.
All right, now we know.
Yeah.
I feel like we're in phase 4.
Oh yeah, we're definitely.
Oh, totally.
Our relationship definitely has its own life force.
There you go.
Yes, and we've accepted each other.
I deal with you all the time.
Same here.
So here's the thing. If you want, for those out there who want more information on the Pathway to Love, you can always get that at julieorlove.com or thepathwaytolove.com. There's an at-home program. You can sign up for free articles. I send up free articles. Did I put you guys on my newsletter? Have you been getting my articles?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, would you like that?
Yes.
All right, I'll put you on. So, because you get weekly articles that I think are pretty good. They're not a lot of fluff. They actually deal with some really important stuff.
Awesome.
And you guys have been a delight. I can't thank you for being on. I so appreciate you making the effort to come this way on your journeys. Tell people where they can find you and they can ask questions and do all that.
Well, you can find us at everyoneisgay.com, which will lead you to all the other places.
Yeah. We're on Twitter and Facebook and
yeah,
YouTube.
our Twitter is at everyoneisgay, pretty easy. Our Facebook is everyoneisgay.com, spelled out. You can find us on YouTube. We have a channel on YouTube where our videos are. So, we're all over the internet, you guys. You can find us.
If you are dealing with a relationship issue or trying to figure out who you are and who you want to love, these are the two women to reach out to. You guys have been great. I know you give great advice and support a lot of people.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being with us today. Again, if you listen to the show on Sunday, we won't be airing live, but we will be there, and I'll look forward to seeing you every Sunday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You have been watching Pathways to Love. I am Julie Orlove, and I wish you a great week. Take care, everyone.
Love plows through me like a dozer. I've got more give than a bale of hay, and there's always a big mess left over. With what did you do and what did you say? What did you do and what did you say? Skillet on the stove is such a temptation. Maybe I'll be the special one that doesn't get burned. What the was I thinking? 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 Love tears me up like a demon, whooping the wounds and then fills them with lead, and I'm having some trouble just breathing. If we weren't such good friends, I think that I'd hate you. If we weren't such good friends, I'd wish you were dead. Skillet on the stove, it's such a temptation. Maybe I'll be the lucky one that doesn't get burned. What the was I thinking? 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 Love is so embarrassing. I'm this awkward and uncomfortable thing. I'm running out of places to hide it. I'm running out of places to hide it. Was I thinking? What the was I thinking? What the was I thinking? What the was I thinking?
Thank you for tuning into LA Talk Live and the Talk Live Broadcast Network, original reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. Stay tuned.